Okay, so in this video, we're going to get started creating ourselves a column grid here in Revit. And we're going to use it as we go through all the steps we need to take in order to create a structural framing plan over the next couple videos. So up here on the Architectural tab, let's come down here to this Datum panel, and I'm going to click our grid tool. First thing I want to do is just lay out the first one, and I'm going to keep it within these elevation bubbles that you see here on the screen. And I'm just going to click and drag. And now I know that I have alphabetically numbered column grids in my north-south direction. So I'm going to take this first one, and if I just double click on that number, I can actually change that to the number, letter A. I want to make this change up front because I know that this will allow me, as I continue to number these grids, they'll just continue to follow Revit auto numbers them, so they'll continue to go A, B, C, and so on. And I know that we're just showing our grid bubble on both sides, so let me just make sure once I have this column line selected, if I just check or uncheck this, I can get the bubble on both sides or one side, whatever you're looking for. Then I'm just going to come up here. While I still have this grid selected, you'll see my modify panel, and I'm going to click for copy. Now I know that I have column grids A through G here, so I'm going to make sure multiple selected, and I'm going to constrain the direction as well. Now I know that here we have 20-foot spacing, so I'm just going to type 20 now and hit enter, and I can continue to do this and very easily lay out the grid line here. So there we have it. We have A through G, and you see, because I renumbered that first one that was originally a 1 to an A, now it laid out the rest. So now let's come back up here one more time, and we're going to lay out our east-west grids. Now you'll see Revit's giving me an H. It's just continuing to auto number, so let's double click on this one and give it a number 1. And I'm going to check the box so that I have that grid on both sides as well. So if I select this one more time and come up here to copy, I'm actually going to have a 32-foot spacing in this direction. So I'm just going to type that in twice. And now we have the grid that we need. You'll see if I select one of these grid lines, and let me zoom in a little bit, but if I just use my toggle for the end of my column grid line, I can actually pull this up and adjust it however much we need to, just to get ourselves within the elevation bubbles that we have for our project. The next thing we want to do is make sure that we set up the levels that work for the structural framing that we're going to be setting up as well. So right now I want to just point out to you, if you come up here above grid on that datum panel, you'll see that level is currently grayed out. It's grayed out because we're in a floor plan view where we cannot assign a level. So what we want to do is we want to use an elevation, or if you had a section at this point, you could use that as well. But I'm just going to go to my north elevation view. And now you'll see that that tool becomes available to us. So if I come back up here now, I can actually click on my level. And I want to point out this options bar is very important to make note of. Because I have this make plan view checked, you'll see that when I create this view, it's going to give me a plan view. If I uncheck this, if this is a level that I'm not going to create an architectural plan for, you may want to uncheck make plan view because it's not needed. It's just a level that you're creating to constrain some of your model elements. So now you see I've dropped in my 3 levels. But the next thing I want us to do, let's rename these levels so that they mean something to us for our project. I'm going to click on level 1, and if I just type 1 dash first floor, Revit's going to ask us if we would like to rename the corresponding views. If you pay attention to the project browser, you'll see that as I click yes here, all of my level 1 annotated plans, ceiling plans are going to all rename to meet the name that we just supplied here. So if you just want to change how it may appear in that elevation, you would not rename the views, but I want to rename my associated views in the project. The next level that we need is actually we're going to need our top of steel. So I'm just going to type that in here. Level 2. And I'll hit enter for that, and we'll rename this as well. And our next one for level 3, we're going to have our top of parapet. Now let's make sure we have these levels the way we would like them to appear, the actual elevations correct. So I know I have a first floor of 0, that is fine. Our top of steel, we actually want it to be at 18 feet, and our top of parapet at 20 foot 3. So we're just going to change this to 20 space 3 for 20 foot 3 inches, and we're going to give ourselves a top of steel of 18 feet. Now we have that. Because our annotation is overlapping, if I actually select this level now here and zoom in a little bit, you'll see I can add an elbow to this. Just gives me a much cleaner look because the text is not overlapping each other. And then I'll just move that. The last thing I want to point out to you here in just the setup of our column grids and our levels, if I zoom out, is right now you actually see that the annotation, the column grids do not overlap our top of parapet level. And what I want to point out to you is this annotation is also model based, so it's very critical that you make sure that these column grids overlap the levels. What I want to show you is if we click on our first floor plan, you'll see the entire grid. We click on our top of steel, we don't see the grid. Top of parapet, we don't see the grid as well. Well, if we go back to this north elevation view, and now I just click and drag so that my column grids do in fact intersect just this top of steel level, well, let's come back to this. Now you see our A through G column grids. So because I only used our north elevation, if I click on our east as well and move it up, and come back to our top of steel, you now see the entire grid. So the annotation that you're seeing here is tied to the model. So you need to make sure that it's accurate in the elevation view for it to even show up in the floor plan view. So I'm just going to, you see now I've grabbed and extended it beyond all of my levels if that column grid does in fact continue into the next level. So we'll just make sure that change is made across the board. And you'll see because all of my grid lines are connected, and you can see the lock representing that, they all move together. So now, no matter what floor plan we open, you'll see the appropriate column grid that should be on that level. All right, I hope this video has been helpful.